2 of the Bible. I don't know. It's not as impactful as week 1. It doesn't have as much drama as, destroying the world, flooding the world, and whatnot. But it's week 2. And just to remind you, we all were given a mind, we all were given a body, and we all were given a soul. The mind is the battleground, 50 to 75,000 thoughts a day. Google that shit, GTS. The body, which sometimes gets hurt, especially the heart, and the soul. We're juggling this. We're juggling the mind, the body, the soul, 24/7, all the time. It never stops. But if you can get your soul right, it'll carry you through, even when the body fails and the mind's overwhelmed. So let's get into week 2. And week 2 is all about basically Abraham's faith. Abraham's faith is so strong. So God said, okay, Abraham, let's chop the top of our penis off to prove our faith to the world. Thousands of years later, circumcision is still happening. But the very first one, you got to admit, that's a pretty tall order. So not only does he circumcise himself at an old age, then he run around and circumcise all the other men. Just saying, you got to have a lot of faith to do that. He also had the faith to be willing to sacrifice his only son from Sarah to prove to God that he's a man of God. Okay? A couple keynotes. Sodom and Gomorrah happened this week, and that's a really cool story. And I look at Sodom and Gomorrah as like when you're hurting people and they're crying out to God, eventually God's going to listen, and he's going to listen to the pain, he's going to listen to the hurt, and he's going to start, coming up with a way to fix the situation. Abraham doesn't want Sodom and Gomorrah to be destroyed because he knows his cousin Lot is there. Okay? And check out Lot. If you read the story of Lot, you're going to read that this man is a raging alcoholic. So even though you might be an alcoholic, even though you might have addictions that are overwhelming you and taking over, dude, read what Lot does in the cave. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell me that he wasn't a raging alcoholic, because he was able to get so blacked out wasted 2 nights in a row that he did some pretty crazy things. Again, you have to drink a lot in order to be at a point where you can get that drunk 2 nights in a row. So it doesn't matter. God still saves him because Abraham's faith is so strong. Abraham was like, at least save my cousin. When the angels came down to check out Sodom and Gomorrah, the townspeople tried to rape the angels. My punchline is always the same. The angels were like, what? Rape this dude. And then they destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. The story goes further with faith. Abraham's faith was awesome. His wife didn't believe as much. And there's a couple points in there where his wife, because she didn't have the same kind of faith, she took matters into her own hands when it came to like children and slaves and slave girls. And every time she took matters into her own hand and just didn't believe in the faith of her husband, she came up short. Okay? It blew up in her faith, or it blew up in her face. Okay? So because she didn't have the same faith as Abraham, and she tried to take matters into her own hands, which, I've done that before, it just blew up. It didn't work. It made things worse. So we can really infer that when we take matters into our own hands and we can't allow God to do the work that he promised he was going to do, it's going to blow up in your face. Read your book. If you can meet somebody with the kind of faith of Abraham, do not lose this person in your life. Keep this person close to you. And if women, if you're married to a man with that kind of faith, just do your best. And men, if you're married to a woman with that kind of faith, do your best to stay with that person. Because, when the storms come, you're going to weather them. You're going to get through them. Faith will get you through these. Again, faith so strong. I don't care what point of history you are. If you have faith so strong that you're willing to chop off your own tip of your own, anyways, that's a pretty big deal. So obviously God really enjoys Abraham's faith, and because God enjoys Abraham's faith in the relationship that Abraham had with him, thousands of years later, his descendants are like dust, just so many of them, and they're doing pretty good. I mean, they're not doing great, and a lot of bad things have happened, but the faith has carried them through. Sarah finally has a baby. She's like 100 years old when she has a baby. And then this baby ends up being, the next one in line. And was it Jacob? I can't remember. I have to read that. Anyways, so Abraham dies of an old man. He has a son, and then his son has two sons. Okay, and the faith continues through the lessons of Abraham, and Abraham's story is so awesome it just carries through without even, there's no time of writing at this point, what I'm saying? There's just hieroglyphics, there's stories. So his story is so powerful it carries through for a very long time. When we get to Isaac and his brother Esau, fighting for blessings becomes the main topic between those two brothers. Fighting for the blessing of the father. Anybody who is able to give a blessing, that's a very powerful thing. But it also works the other way, because that person also is capable of, sending out curses. And not so much curses, but just, you're going to have to read the story. You want to call me and talk about it. If I'm home, I love to listen. And nothing would make me happier than to be able to sit here and read the Bible all the time and just sort of help people understand what it's saying and help myself understand through helping other people understand. The Bible here in this week, it really mentions the first shot at the 10% tithing. And I know that every church you go to is going to ask for their 10%. This is the first time it's mentioned it, but that 10% is more about, it's more about Isaac. What was it? Isaac who did the first 10%. It was of his own accord. It was of his own, he came up with that idea. It wasn't forced on him. So just sort of keep that in mind, clergymen. We give what we can give based off of what is on our hearts. Okay. This story ends, I love this. Isaac has to flee his brother. He ends up going to a new place where his relatives are, his long-distant relatives, and he finds this unbelievably beautiful woman, and he wants to marry this woman, and he's willing to put himself into indentured slavery just for this woman, okay? The father of the woman does some tomfoolery, and he ends up getting 14 years of work, so twice the work for trading his daughters. Okay, so I don't like the part where women are a commodity in the Bible, but I mean, if you read it, it seems very clear that women are used and traded, and it's not this day. I will tell you now, women can have just as much faith as men can have just as much faith as women. It's a very equal thing these days. So then we go on to Jesus. So that's the Old Testament. And it's, like I said, it's not floods and anything like that. But, it's some tomfoolery. It's brother against brother still. So we're still dealing with that. We're going to be dealing with that throughout the whole Bible. But now we move on to the New Testament. And Jesus is running around healing folks. He's bringing the dead back to life. There's a woman who literally just touches Jesus' robe and she's healed. Faith. She had enough faith to know, okay, I'm just going to touch his robe and I'm healed. And Jesus is like, hey, where'd that healing power go? Oh, you. Okay, cool. Your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. Another couple things I need you to understand. Matthew 7:1 is very clear. Judge not lest thee be judged. In the exact same way that you're judging is the exact same way that you will be judged. And then, it goes further on to do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. So another thing to note is that Jesus is running around healing people for free. Okay, so before Jesus, you had to go and pay for your healing, pay for your faith. Faith cost money. It wasn't for free. So Jesus comes on and just says, okay, now it's free. Everybody can have the Holy Spirit. Everybody can have God. And you don't have to pay any money. Boom. The churches cannot have this. That cannot work. Faith, free. Believe in Jesus. Healing. That's the message that I'm reading this week. Judge not lest thee be judged. And if you are going to judge, be prepared to be judged the exact same way that you are judged. Okay? Churches, Jesus is free. Okay? Proverbs of the week. This is a good one. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke. Because the Lord disciplines those he loves. As a father, the son he delights in. And of course, I will not delight in evil. I will not boast. I will not be proud. I will not be envious. I will not dishonor others. I will not be self-seeking. I will not be easily angered. I will not keep record of wrongdoing. I will not lose hope. I will not fail. I will be kind. I will be patient. I will rejoice in truth. I will protect. I will trust. I will persevere. That's love. Have a great week. Read your Bible. If you like the cut of my jib, throw me $1. If you don't, throw me $2. Bye.